Welcome to AFL Round 4 of ESPN Footy Tips. I'm here with Jude, Bolton again. John, Webb. Congratulations first off, last week, 9 out of 9.
Got the 9, I was pretty happy with that, but it was a fairly easy round to pick, I felt, and I guess that was shown, wasn't it?
31% of tippers last week won the Whopper for a Whopper, so that means they got 9. 79% of all tippers scored either 7, 8 or 9 tips, which is a pretty good week.
So it's a pretty predictable round.
Yeah. So let's kick off this week, Friday night, Richmond versus the D's at the MCG.
Well, the last time these two teams played on a Friday night against each other was round 12, 2007. So Melbourne haven't really deserved being on the big stage of Friday night footy for a while, but it'll be good to see how they go. They really attacked Adelaide over in Adelaide. They got their matchups right. I thought sending Bernie Vince to Patrick Dangerfield was really something special. It was pretty spiteful, but it was good to see. Very combative from Melbourne. But I'm expecting Richmond to really get up. I'm tipping Richmond. They dominated the Brisbane Lions and smashed them up there. So Richmond they've got so much class. Cochin was good last week. Dustin Martin as well as Jack Riewoldt. So I'm really tipping Richmond in the big one.
Richmond Friday night. So we're heading internationally on Saturday. St Kilda Carlton at Westpac Stadium in Wellington for Anzac Day.
Yeah, the Saints, this is their third occasion over at Westpac Stadium. I actually played in the first one they played over there. They haven't had it hasn't been a good happy.
What do they call it? The cake tin,
The cake tin, it's right on the water there. Tough place to play footy, very swirly wind. But the Saints, I'm tipping them to beat Carlton over there. I think, I just feel that they're starting to build. They had Nick Riewoldt was a late withdrawal last week, so we got our first look at the number one pick, Paddy McCartan. He didn't do much last week, but I think if Nick Riewoldt's playing, I think they'll get up over Carlton. The Blues just battling this year. I reckon they're really staring down the barrel of a cellar dweller year. So it's a tough game, but I think the St Kilda will win their first game at the Cake Tin of 3 attempts.
Saints in New Zealand. So traditional Anzac Day clash, biggest game of home and away game of the whole year. Essendon versus the Pies at the G.
Massive game. This is Dustin Fletcher's 17th Anzac Day clash. Both coaches are synonymous with Anzac Day as well. Nathan Buckley and James Hird. So it's just a cracking game. Essendon are playing great football, really getting after teams at the moment. Collingwood had a good win last week. So I'm just thinking, probably the Bombers in a tight one here.
It's one of those ones, isn't it? Doesn't matter where they sit in the ladder. It's anyone's.
Form doesn't count in this. You just go in. They come with the passion. They really, I guess they've set up Anzac Day so well because that's a tribute to the Anzacs, but they play with the spirit.
They do. To the nation's capital, Giants versus the Suns Saturday night.
Yeah, both teams. I think Giants had a tough loss against the Swans. They played really well against the Swans at the SCG. Gold Coast, they really pushed Geelong down at Skilled Stadium. So it was two sides that probably just had tough wins tough losses last week. I'm tipping the Giants. I think they've got some class at the moment. Patfield's just such a big addition. I thought Devon Smith was terrific against the Swans. He finished with a heap of possessions. Lachie Whitfield had 37 against the Swans. And Jeremy Cameron, who had plenty of chances early, was well held by Ted Richards in the end. He still managed to kick 2 goals, but I'm tipping the Giants.
And good news for the Suns during the week with Ablett signing for an extra 3.
A huge signing. I mean, even though he's been battling with the injury, we know how good he is, and he can still push forward at the latter end of his career and just play as a small forward and kick plenty of goals. But great signing for them.
And then Saturday night in Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval, Port Hawthorn. Any other week, this would be match of the round if the Bombers and the Pies weren't playing.
Exactly. No, this is just a cracking game. I think everyone will be watching this game very closely to see how Port Adelaide go against the team that knocked them out of the finals last year. Hawthorn were just terrific against the Western Bulldogs. Port Adelaide had that incredible game against North Melbourne where they came off the canvas late in the game. Kane Mitchell kicked the winning goal or a sealer late in the game. They were just fantastic. That was probably one of the games of the year, the Port North Melbourne game. I'm tipping Hawthorn though. They got back to their best after that shock loss against Essendon. So I'm tipping Hawthorn after a big win down in Tassie.
Someone at the AFL is doing a great job with this fixture. Freo Sydney as well. That's another top four matchup, isn't it?
Incredible
Dockers in
game of
white hot
football
form last week as well.
Incredible game of football, this one. I mean, the Dockers, to kick 11 unanswered goals in any derby against the West Coast Eagles, we spoke about form doesn't matter, and both sides were going into that game, with decent form, and they just obliterated the West Coast Eagles, and, it's going to be a tough one for the Swans. They head over there with great confidence. Both teams are undefeated at the moment. I'm tipping, it pains me to say it, but I'm tipping the Fremantle Dockers, very tight one. I think
I'm assuming.
Just very close. No, I think the Swans will go over there. They'll try and dictate the ball movement of the Fremantle Dockers. But their pressure's up. They've got some superb players through Mundy and Fife in the middle. But Lockie Neal, who won the Ross Glendinning medal, was just terrific. He had 42 disposals last week.
They just looked sharp, didn't they?
Yeah,
they
I'm
looked
tipping
really sharp.
the Dockers, which hurts me.
Over to Sunday, Lions versus West Coast at the Gabba.
Yeah, Brisbane obviously had a tough loss against Richmond. West Coast, got demolished by Fremantle last week, but I'm tipping West Coast up there. I just think, Lecras kicked 5 last week. After that terrible start, they actually evened up the game a little bit towards the back end of the game. I just feel that they'll get the job done up there in a close one.
So Geelong North Melbourne at Simmons Stadium on Sunday. Chris Scott saying, don't worry about what we were, it's what we are now.
Yeah, exactly. It's they're a side in transition at the moment, and they're fully aware of where they're at. It was a tough, gritty win though down there at Skilled Stadium. It was amazing to see them hang on. Ravaged by injuries at the moment. The loss of Jimmy Bartell is just a big one. But I think they'll get Tomahawk back this week, who was a late withdrawal as well. But I'm still tipping North Melbourne. That game that was played against Port Adelaide was just superb. The pressure, the intensity, the rate at which they were playing the game, and also the fact that they hit the front late. They should have held on and won. I'm tipping them to win.
Always adds the intrigue with the two brothers. I would have always imagined playing against my brother or coaching against my brother.
But also that was the team that knocked Geelong out last year. So North Melbourne did the job in a clutch game in the semi-final last year. So should be a cracking game as well.
And Bulldogs versus Crows at Etihad Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, the Bulldogs versus the Crows. I'm tipping the Crows over there at Etihad Stadium. Just feel they're playing with just unbelievable pressure. Phil Walsh has brought this ethos to them. They've never had any issues with their offence, Adelaide, but their defence has really raised the bar this year. The Western Bulldogs, they were obviously beaten by Hawthorn last week, but the Crows, held on against Melbourne. I think the Crows will just come back and hit back hard against the Doggies.
So rounding out your tips for the round for us?
So I'm tipping Richmond over the D's, St Kilda over Carlton. I'm tipping Essendon over Collingwood in the Anzac Day clash. GWS over the Gold Coast Suns. I'm tipping Hawthorn to beat Port Adelaide. Fremantle to beat the Sydney Swans. West Coast Eagles to beat the Brisbane Lions. And North Melbourne to beat Geelong. And Adelaide to beat the Western Bulldogs.
Good luck with your tips.
Cheers.